it's going to be the team, it's going to be the organization. Not every model works everywhere. Like a, big venture capital firm is going to work differently from like a burger joint.
Yeah, yeah,
I think every place has to find, its own culture that should include psychological safety, but there's a lot of ways to get there, and psychological safety is not the only thing. And I think really, you have to, kind of be build up this team in the space that that you exist in whatever industry you're in, and you're really trying to find that niche, find that that culture that succeeds in that space. And I think for us it's like, well, I don't know what that culture is going to be for your company. I don't know what, I can't just walk into somewhere and say this is a culture you guys need. But it's sort of like, well, here's some tools, and it doesn't have to be all training related, but we're a training company, but it doesn't have to all be training related. I think a big part of it is, how do we once we have identified, once we have talked about this big picture idea, the culture that we want to create, well, how do we go about doing it? How do we reinforce it? How do we maintain it? And I think that's where some of these tools really come into place, and they can be really simple. Like you mentioned, the suggestion box, could be such a simple tool that actually has a powerful impact.
hmm
Um, Obviously, when we're talking about training, it's like getting this message out there, making sure that your users are onboarded. Everybody has a baseline knowledge. You can look at another employee that's been at the company for 3 months and say, I know this guy knows this because I know it was in the course. He had to, right? Having that confidence, I think, is a huge piece of building that community and that trust. And then I think there are other pieces too around, knowledge sharing discussions, and maybe even one thing we're talking about is like performance, right? I think one thing that helps get through like ego and identity and things, once all those things become tied into your work, it's sort of unpleasant. You
Yeah.
don't want your project to be tied to that.